All right, everybody, welcome to Virtual Bourbon. My name is Steve Akley. We have a fun event tonight. I'm joined by Jason Fruits of Old 55 Distillery, and he's going to be sharing with us not only a tasting of his unique whiskey, but he's going to be telling us the background too, because I think this is important. This one is so unique, so different than anything that's out there, and it's truly one of a kind. And it's literally one of the favorite whiskeys that I drink. It's in. I think the barrel strength one that we're going to try is in my top 5 whiskeys of all time. So this is definitely a favorite, and Jason's gotten to be a good friend over the last year and a half since we've known each other. And I really look forward to showing you guys tonight what he's all about. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jason Fruits.
How is everybody? So, hey, Steve, thank you as always, man. It's awesome being on here. Love your audience. Love getting a chance always to see you, man. And when you ask if we could do this, I couldn't think of a better way to do it. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm really happy to do this because
yeah,
it is unique. And again, I don't know that you'll ever get to the point where you have the one that we're going to taste, the barrel strength, where you can produce it in a large enough quantity where it's all over. So an event like this allows people to taste it and encourages them, if they happen to be in the area, maybe they're visiting Kentucky, maybe take a side trip, a half-day trip and go see what you're doing and buy a bottle of this because it's pretty special.
No, that's exactly right. When you brought this up, it just really did hit home. I was like, this is a perfect way for all those people to get the dozens of emails I get a day about where can I find sweet corn bourbon across the planet, to do this, and you make that happen, and top 5 ever, man. That's some big shoes to fill. Thank you very much, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I really do love the stuff. So if you don't mind, I think it's important to lay the groundwork to talk about why this is so special, because right away, I mean, you're in the business, you're not only distilling, you have, a family that, obviously is in the grain business. So you have a much better understanding of why this is so unique. And we as just general bourbon fans might not. So tell us a little bit about what makes this one so special.
Absolutely. So when we started this whole crazy idea, being that we are vertically integrated and we control everything from the family farm to bottle, we wanted to do something unique. And my dad gets credit for this one. And I always joke, and you've heard me say this before, many people have heard me say this. I should have immediately known when we found no one that did sweet corn bourbon that thrown the brakes on the entire project immediately. But like a bull in a china shop, we just kind of went right into it, and it's been an adventure, to say the least. I always say the sweet corn and I have a love-hate relationship. Everyone loves it, and I hate it. I don't hate it. It's an awesome product. It's delicious. It just sometimes I think it hates me. It's just everybody's heard me say this too. No one makes sweet corn bourbon, and we're the only ones that make sweet corn bourbon because we're the only ones dumb enough to make it. It is just obnoxious. So really, the whole start of this product came from, we were obviously already growing corn. We had some wheat in the ground, overwintered wheat that was coming out. We just looked through what are some, and this was before. I mean, you see it, Steve, too. You see all these artisanal, legacy heirloom grains that are out in the hotness. And I always say, like, I think that's cool. I think if you're incorporating those, I think it's neat. I think it adds some panache to everything. And I was like, man, what is something that we can do to show off? Because I will say that about the sweet corn. I don't think anything better shows off what Old 55 and the Fruits family can do than this product. And the reason for that is once again, nobody else is dumb enough to do it. And 2, those distillers that I know that know what we do here, I mean, they just kind of drop to their knees and bow. They're like, that's insane. And I'm like, it is. It's definitely a lost leader. And we can get into the nitty gritty. I love to nerd out and answer questions, but it is, so like all things Fruits family, we decided to, just kind of stick our toe in the water and grow 7 acres of sweet corn. That sounded like a good idea. So we grew 7 acres of sweet corn, and my plan from then on was always to keep doubling the acreage. We have not made it past 14 acres. So 14 acres is what we grow. That is what we can handle in a year. It is it is cantankerous to say the least. So so we grow that 14 acres, and then that comes off my grandpa's farm. Mill it, mash it. We dry that. It dries in the field. We then
So Jason, just to interject real quick. So,
absolutely.
but that's a difficult corn to even grow. So it's the first difficulty with this becomes in the corn itself, right? I mean, it's
Oh,
a little bit
absolutely.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're exactly. So first off, I always joke that pretty much every woodland creature on the planet comes to Montgomery County, because it's actually in the adjacent county to Fountain County where the distillery's at. It's only about 6 miles down the road. So they all come to Montgomery County to procreate and eat that, as much of that field as they possibly can, because it's like heaven on earth to every deer, raccoon. I mean, there's just it's just crazy. Like they're trying to keep. We went to Purdue.
They'll walk past yellow dent corn, acres of it, to get to the sweet corn, right?
Absolutely, yeah. No, they'll. We talked to Purdue 3 years ago now about how we could naturally, because we do, this is an organic grain sweet corn. We do, it is not organic certified, but we don't spray it. You know what I mean? Like we could get it organic certified if we wanted to, but we were looking for some natural ways to keep the critters out of it. And one of them was, Purdue told us to plant pumpkins, and because the raccoons don't like to step on the pumpkin vines, and we thought that the only thing that would be dumber is growing pumpkins underneath the sweet corn. So that never, we just grow it. And the idea is that we kind of kill it with volume. I always tell people 14 acres, if you stand in the middle of 14 acres, it's kind of about almost as much as you could see. You know what I mean? Like before, a lot of corn. And we use a variety called Incredible. It's a little older. It's a bicolor sweet corn that is delicious. It's kind of the stepbrother. This is how it was explained to me. It's kind of the stepbrother to ambrosia, which in like mid 2000s, it's kind of an older sweet corn seed as well. That is the one that won every state fair for about 5 or 6 years for best sweet corn. This is the paraffin color on this hybrid of corn lasts a little bit longer. They actually crossbreed it with the ambrosia for seed corn, is what they use this Incredible for. And obviously we are drawing it down to a seed corn basically consistency. So that's what we went with, and we've never tried anything else. It's always been that one, and it was by dumb luck that just kind of, there's a little study in there, but kind of like everything we do, I always laugh, it's kind of like accidentally on purpose. So it's been pretty crazy. So yeah.
So you farm this corn that's really unique and different, and again, right away you've eliminated the competition, because you have the ability to do that. You're growing it yourself, even though it's very difficult and challenging. It's something that you guys have decided to undertake. You're in that business, so you know how to do it. It's not just someone just planted some corn. This is your family business, grain business, long before you were ever in whiskey. And then you decide to distill it. So talk to us a little bit about your philosophy on distilling. I think they need to understand, the cuts that you make versus the cuts that you might find at a much, different distillery. Because you are growing the corn and the grain, and you want it to be the best, you literally do a hearts of the hearts cut, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we take 100% heart cuts. I mean, the easiest way to put it into the numbers is I probably keep a third or less of what any other distiller does, and I get rid of the rest. So I always get asked by other distillers if they can buy my heads and tails off of me, because they will use those, and
they could just rerun it. Yeah, probably pretty decent yield.
Joke that it's not even worth me doing the tax paperwork to get it to them. I mean, like the money's not. The paperwork is more of a pain in the butt for me to transfer stuff, and we've never transferred any. So I always try to explain that to people too. I mean, we do so many darn things. And Steve, please throw something at me through the screen if I stop, because there's so much stuff that we do that nobody else really does.
No, we want to hear this, what this event's about, and we're a bunch of bourbon nerds, so it's
absolutely. So if I forget something, yell at me. But
okay.
It's every day to me, right? Like I don't think about it. This is just what we do, but there is a bunch of cool stuff. So with us being able, so we've never sourced anything. Every drop is ours. I've distilled everything. And it all comes, from basically the family fields. And it's just incredible. And then with being able to do that, being vertically integrated, I can keep we can do the hearts of the hearts of that. I love that. I think Alan Bishop said that the first time I ever heard it, and that's probably the best way to explain it. Like the hearts of the hearts is true, and that like I get to keep a cut of alcohol that nobody else can afford to make. Does that make any sense? Like because they need volume, and I always tell people we never play the volume game. I mean, we have a large craft still. We have a pretty sizable operation. We could crank out, thousands of barrels, a week easily. But we don't. We concentrate on quality. That's what we do, and it is so to that heart cut. And that's kind of where the sweet corn. I always like to try to explain to people because people always ask why it's so expensive, and it's kind of it's a 3-tiered approach to why it's so expensive. And I think this will answer the hearts and kind of everything. Okay. Sweet corn. So regular field dent corn right now is about $5 a bushel, which is actually expensive, believe it or not. It's actually pretty high right now. So a little bit over $5 is what my dad's paying for a bushel. A bushel is 56 pounds. That's just a classic measurement that we use. It's what the Chicago trade. It's what we use to measure. So my sweet corn that we plant cost me $1,400 for a 50-pound bag. So we plant 2 50-pound bags, $2,800, and that plants the 14 acres. Yeah. So to make a traditional mash bill, we use a ton. So just do the math. I mean, it cost us just shy of $30,000 to do a single, which by the way makes about 3/4 of one barrel. Is what
3/4 of a barrel. So a ton of that sweet corn equals 3/4 of a barrel.
Exactly. Well, for my cuts and everything
right,
else.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But yeah.
And this just doesn't make anything. So the first obstacle is that cost of the input grain itself. And because it's so high, no one can afford to even make that step. So, but let's just say because like Heaven Hill and some other people are doing some stuff with actually like Bex, who we help that has helped us source the sweet corn. They've got some really cool programs that they're doing where they're doing some like estate little bits of grain on the property, which I think is awesome. But for them to do this, so then they would have to grow at least 14 acres to do what I'm doing. And they're not farmers, right? Like they don't have any piece of knowledge. And to be honest, farming it isn't bad. The problem is we're using the sweet corn for a purpose it's not intended to be used for. So traditional yellow dent corn is, it stands really well. We want it to dry down so we can get it to, 12 to 15% in the bin. So it's stable and we can make corn chips out of it and corn sweetener and all the things that we want to do. Sweet corn is another, genetically modified organism that we have genetically modified to be sweet and delicious and eat when it's ripe. I don't use it. So whiskey has to be made from cereal grains. So I have to dry it down. If I actually took it ripe and ran it through like a fruit pulper, I would actually be making corn brandy is what I would be making. It's a totally different process. Oh. So I've always kind of wanted to do that. And I'll be totally honest. I'll just net it out. Like I want to run it through cob and all, because there's a ton of starch in the cob and it would totally change the whiskey. It would be totally different than this whiskey because you would probably get like 4 times more starch in that cob than you would get in the actual sweet corn itself. And it would change the whole dynamic of, the brandy would be totally different, which is actually funny because I kind of call this corn brandy is what I call this product. It's very sweet. And so we're using it. So I would say that field, when we get, so we let it field dry as long as possible. And I call it the witching hour. So we have about 4 or 5 days to get it off the ground before it all rots. And I have no sweet corn. So it all falls on the ground. The field looks like Armageddon. It's the crappiest looking cornfield you've ever seen. And we scoop it off the ground. There's a family that's awesome that helps us farm all this, the Myerses, and they just do an incredible job. The second year ever, we did, $60,000 worth of $60,000 or $80,000 of damage to, I'm trying to forget about it, to a case combine, used a platform to scoop it up off the ground. I mean, we've really, without their help, we wouldn't, it's awesome to have their help and their expertise. And they've just taken it to a new level of helping us get this off the ground. So they custom crop that ground for us, and they're just, it's awesome because they could be just doing it for the money, and they don't. They take as much passion as we do on that agricultural side of making sure that they're harvesting that for us. And Gene drives the combine. I ride with him, and I dry peanut carts back and forth from the distillery with all loaded up. And so then we've had it come anywhere. 2 years ago, it came out of the field at over 80% moisture. It was basically already swelling and spoiling as soon as we on the combine. Before we could get it off, we had to poke it all out. And this is just classic fruits. Bypassing every safety system possible on a brand new, $500,000 combine, so we could poke this corn out of there and get it on these wagons. And then some years, we had 1 year when we had all that drought, which was actually the best year we ever had. The sweet corn was ripened, and then it dried all up, and we didn't have rain, so we swept it all up and got it all up, and it was about 12 to 14% off. And I was like, oh, that was the easiest year ever. So it's always interesting when we have the years we have great dent corn, usually actually means we have terrible sweet corn, as far as not terrible sweet corn for eating, but terrible sweet corn for my purposes of getting it dried down for cereal grain to make whiskey out of it, specifically.
Okay. So Jason, just to give us an idea about, so we can again start kind of for those of us that aren't in the industry and aren't you, tell us a little bit about, we're talking, running a batch of your sweet corn yields about 3/4 of a barrel the way you cut it. If you don't mind, could you tell us what your normal bourbon, the corn that you use for that, which isn't the sweet corn, what yield you would get out of that, same thing measuring in barrels? And then could you tell us what another distiller might get if they weren't doing the heart of the hearts cut on both of those? If they don't do the sweet corn, but if they did, how many barrels you think they would get? And then how many barrels on the regular bourbon too, just for an idea, so we can kind of in our minds get this, what you do.
No, absolutely. I'm a visual guy, that, man. So I like to do that. So the easiest way to do this on our still that we run about a ton at a time, I will make of our normal barrel of our normal wheated bourbon, which is kind of our mainstay product. I will make 2 barrels off of one distillation. Okay. A normal distiller would make 8 to 10, just depending on. That's the cut on that. Okay. On a ton of corn, I make 3. I make just above a third of the spirit comes off of the sweet corn that our normal cut of bourbon would come off of.
Yeah.
So it is that's the difference. So the cost of grain, the actual ability to handle that grain, which is what my family's been doing for over 50 years. And then the third is just, it doesn't make any sense to distill. And I call this is actually the hardest and the most expensive part of the entire process is the opportunity cost. So 2 years ago, it took me 7 weeks to make 19 barrels. And in that 7 weeks on our regular bourbon, I could make over 100 barrels of bourbon.
Wow.
So, it just cost me $350,000, $400,000 in revenue to make sweet corn instead of making bourbon. And the biggest answer always from anyone I give a tour to is like, oh, just get another still and make sweet corn on just that still. And I say, then the rational, non-idiotic thing would be to make bourbon on that still too. Then the answer is never make sweet corn. So it really is a loss leader in that it's just the, between the cost to make it, the sweat equity, and that opportunity cost of not being it just doesn't make it. There's just no product there. But it is our loss leader. It does, like I said, I do love it. It is, there's no product that better, I think, shows off what the Fruits family and Old 55 does than our sweet corn bourbon. It is just incredible.
I just want to kind of, and I don't have a graphic here, but I just want to make sure everyone knows too. And I know a lot of the folks on here are bourbon geeks. They are on a lot of these events with me. They know what heads hearts and tails are, but I don't know that everybody does. So I just want to explain, as the first whiskey comes off the still, that's going to be the heads. It's going to have some alcohols in there that aren't real great tasting, and typically you're going to cut that off at some point. And that's typically done, a pot still by taste, and then at some point you cut it off, and then that is then thrown away. That would be the heads. And then you get to the hearts, which is in the middle. That's going to be your best whiskey that you're ultimately going to barrel and you're going to be drinking. And then when it gets to the end, once again, different alcohols, but it also doesn't have a great taste. So you cut that off. So right in the middle would be the hearts. So, but what Jason says, and again, just to reiterate exactly what he said, typically if someone was running a bourbon, they would have about 8 barrels in the middle. That would be the hearts that they would use. He shrinks that all the way down to about 2 barrels. So in reality, someone could be much more efficient than he is, but that's not what he's looking for. Efficiency isn't what Jason's looking for. He's looking for quality. And that's why it's important to just take a second to make sure that everybody has that concept down, Jason.
No, that's perfect. I think the best way to say it is, I'm super efficient at what I do because I'm so inefficient in my cut, if that makes any sense. Like I keep so little that everything before that we spare no cost to make the best distillate, to make the best mash for me to get the best, like we use 4 proprietary yeast on almost every single mash bill, 6 enzymes. We spare nothing to make sure that cut, even though it's small, is as big as it can possibly be. So most whiskeys you try, whether they be bourbons or just any other kind of whiskey, almost always have tails in them. Okay. And those are the fusel oils. Those are those the really oily alcohols that come off at the end of the distillation. We don't like the taste of those. So heads, hearts, and tails, everybody gets rid of the heads because those will make you blind. They're bad. Okay. Methanols, all kinds of the old moonshining stories you hear. That leads the hearts and tails. Now, this is where every distiller and every company can kind of make that on that spectrum, because that's kind of the neatest thing about this is the heads lead into hearts and the hearts lead into the tails. It's all, there's a spectrum there. So we don't distill any of the tails at all. I actually turn my still off because it's a reflux still. So when I get to the end of the heart cut, I just turn the still off. So I don't distill them because then I have to pay taxes on them if I do distill them. So this leaves the heart cut, and this is what I keep right here.
Yeah.
So I got this tiny little section right in the middle that I keep, and that is where we can do that because we're vertically integrated. I mean, it's just that simple. I can afford to do that because I always like to brag because, my 2 sets of grandparents and my mom and dad are about the most badass Americans anyone's ever met in their entire life. And they, I fell into this crazy, situation where we're completely vertically integrated, and it's super cool because we can chase. And I always like to say, my dad doesn't drink, so he has no idea what I'm doing on a daily basis. So he's like, hey, keep what you're doing. So yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah. So let's get ready to taste what you've got here. So let's talk about the 2 whiskeys that we're going to taste. The first one's the 80 proof. You've got distribution on that. As a matter of fact, I know you're based out of Indiana, obviously, but I live in St. Louis. I can buy this right across the river in Illinois. So you have distribution beyond just Indiana with this one, correct?
Yep. So this is distributed in Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois statewide, 4 provinces of Canada, and a little bit overseas in China and Japan. It is actually sold out right now. This 80 proof is, and okay. Barrel strength that we're going to try has only ever been available in the tasting room and lasts about a day before it's gone. So and we will get to why the 80 proof is sold out, but that has been for the last 4 years, 3.5 years. That has been the mainstay of the bourbon. People always ask why we had 80s. Well, we were just starting and I had to water stuff down, and that's how it works. So, and I needed to spread it out because there's just so little of this product and it sells so quickly anyway. So, this is, the 80 proof is, it's fun. Well, you know what? We're just going to break the news now because I think it's cool and it's a perfect segue. So the 80 proof is falling off, because starting in about 2 weeks, everything is going to bottled and bond. So
nice.
Everything in the distillery period is going to bottled and bond. But in
100 proof, yeah.
In about a month, we're going to jump up, and that always makes me smile. Like just you saying 100 proof, like makes me grin. So I'm a proof head. I always want higher proof is always better. So these 80 proof whiskeys that we've done in the past, We will still keep some of them just for like restaurant business, etc., on premise business, for mixing cocktails. But most everything, 99% of everything is going to go to 4+ year old bottled and bond labeling. So the sweet corn and the glass just got delivered today, so it will be bottled up later this week and early next week, and look for that on. So if anybody on here is interested, go on to our website, and our newsletter's on there. Sign up for that newsletter and you'll get to see when that. So we'll have a couple weeks of that in the tasting room, and then that will be out in all the markets, and we'll probably go really sneaking fast.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have any online partners too? Is there any for those, because we do have people here beyond even those regions we just talked about, where they can order it online?
We do. We've got some stuff. The problem with this product is that it just goes too fast. So I'm afraid that this is going to last like a week or two.
Right.
It be sold out for the entire year, which is almost what it always does. It's always very short. We had some bigger years that having the 80 proof whiskey let us kind of thin it out a little bit and spread it out. But, like I haven't sent any sweet corn to Illinois for a year and a half. You know what I mean? Wow. So anything you find across there is little sneaky unicorn bottles that somebody doesn't know, it's probably got dust on it. And they don't know it's hiding back there. So it is, we will see Sealbacks has picks from us occasionally. Okay. We're trying to get we're trying to do it ourselves, to be totally honest. We want I think that's the future. Where you can just go to Distillery.com and you can order a bottle straight from me. That's what I want to happen. And we're kind of hoping maybe by the end of the year we're going to have that done legislatively, et cetera, in the other states that will allow us to do that. So that's the plan.
Yeah, that's good news for sure. All right, well, let's try these. We're going to start with the 80 proof. So we always start with the lower proof. So everyone, if you haven't done so already, please give that one a pour. And we're going to try. We'll go through and we'll share nosing notes and then tasting notes like we always do on these. But Jason, as we do this, what do you think we should expect as we take this whiskey here right now?
I'll give you the 80 proof first. I always call this dessert bourbon or corn brandy. So it actually reminds me more of brandy than it really does bourbon, but it is completely unique. So I always say this, when we distilled this to start with, there were 4 possibilities. And I knew I was going to get one of those 4, but I didn't know what we were going to get. And it kind of explains why we keep doing this. So number 1, it was going to come out, it was going to be terrible. Well, I don't really make terrible things because we try too hard. So even if it was terrible, it'd be the best terrible thing ever that could possibly be. I really thought it would be one of the middle 2 possibilities. It would just be, because this is 100% corn mash bill, by the way, guys. 100% sweet corn makes it super unique. I thought it would either be a gimmick and just taste like 100% corn bourbon, or I thought it would be good, but it would still be a gimmick. Does that make sense? And after making it the first year, if it would have tasted like a gimmick, we would have never made it again, because it's a absolute pain in my ass is what it is. So of course we got number 4, because that's how Murphy's Law works. Nature always just smacks you around a little bit. So of course it's number 4. It is completely unique. It's delicious. It's awesome. So tasting notes on this 80 proof, ridiculously smooth. It's a high ester whiskey, just because of how slow it's distilled. I mean, it's literally like watching paint dry is what it's like distilling this. So an average distillation goes from like 6.5 hours to like 12 plus. I mean, it's just awful. It just takes so much time. But I get Cracker Jacks, kind of this buttery, oily popcorn middle. And then my favorite is the finish. The finish reminds me of, I always love to tell this story. My dad doesn't drink, like I told you guys. And the first time we ever bottled this, I was getting this nose off the top of the blending tank. And we have a blending tank, and we actually don't blend anything. We single barrel everything. It's hilarious. So it's all the way down to the bottom. I'm standing over the top of this thing, and all my brothers walk up there and they smell it. I'm like, what is that, guys? Nobody knows. I'm like, Dad, come over here and smell this. And he starts razzing me. He's like, why would I don't drink. I don't know what it smells like. I'm like, my dad he's like Jesus. He knows everything. Like, he has an answer. He can fix it. He's amazing. I'm like, just get up on the ladder and smell this. So he crawls up the ladder, finally, begrudgingly crawls up there, peeks his nose over the edge and goes, oh, that's Bubblicious bubble gum. He's dead on. So not when you chew bubble gum or the taste of bubble. But when you open the wrapper on Bubblicious and you smell that bubblegum powdered sugar, or like you tear into a thing of Big League Chew, that is what the finish on this reminds me of. It's just awesome. So guys,
Okay.
try it.
So, and you had a question come in, single barrels. You talked about that. Full size barrels. You use 30-gallon barrels, right,
30-gallon barrels, all aged underground. Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And typical age on these, obviously it's going to be moving forward. It's going to be at least 4 years, but was that still the case with these?
The 80 proof that your guys are trying is somewhere north of 3 years.
Okay.
And obviously going into bottled bond, everything will be 4 years plus.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's talk about this on the nose, folks. What are you getting here? I mean, certainly cornbread is there.
Oh yeah. Bananas. I get bananas sometimes.
Bananas.
I definitely get that high ester, like a funk to it, for
Mhm.
sure.
Oh yeah.
Little funk, sure.
That's that northwest. That's that region northwest funk, isn't it? No, I've always gotten the banana, a little bit of that banana for sure. A little bit of sweeter, overripe banana, even, you know, if you want to specify.
Okay. Paul, how about you, man? Paul,
Yeah, over like cornbread with just like almost like there's a sweetness to it too, like more like a syrup, more cornbread or something like that. It's
cornbread with syrup. Yeah.
Very appealing.
Yeah. Casey, you're usually pretty good at this stuff. What are you getting?
I'm having some trouble with this one. I'm getting cinnamon red hots, which for some reason.
All right.
Fucking very, very
Todd Bourbon.
There wasn't some fireball in that snifter first, was it?
He was shooting it before.
Glycol. It's 50% glycol.
There you go.
Caramelized the skillet.
What's the price point on these bottles, Jason?
Price point on the 80 proof was around 120 to 130, and like I said, that's being phased out. The bottle of bond is going to 150. We sold the barrel strength sweet corn for 250, and it lasted a day and a half.
Yeah.
Wow. He's got a tasting room. Yeah.
All right, let's give this a try. Cheers, gang.
Cheers. Already gone.
Here.
Super sweet.
Yeah. I mean,
There's so much more.
that is really good. You get the cornbread in that, but you also get the bubblegum taste is there. It's sweet. I mean, it's really, really good. So
I always kind of reminds me, like I said, corn brandy or like dessert bourbon. Like it is, banana Laffy Taffy. I get that. I've heard that. Yep, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, by the way, I'm down for that corn brandy. If you make some, put me down for at least a bottle of that. That sounds interesting, man. I don't know. That sounds cool. Cobb and all, my friend. I'm in.
Exactly. I just honestly, besides the fact that I got to do a ton of it, I'd just be curious to see what it runs. You know, I mean, what it would be. And like I said, running it with the Cobb, I think would make it all kinds of interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The maple syrup's not bad either, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that stuff is really amazing. White wine, a little bit of ginger ale. That's cool. Nigel, what do you think? Oh, you're on mute, my friend.
I am a transplant from Britain, and I am in my transition to learning your great whiskies here after being a Scotch person forever.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun, especially as I live in Indianapolis. So I'm not.
Oh yeah, you're right there. You're right there in old 55 country. So yeah,
exactly.
You can make it better.
I definitely got the bananas, and it is incredibly smooth.
All right.
And yeah, I like it.
Okay. All right. Mr. Bill, what do you think on a taste on this one? He's tasting now.
I like it.
That's good. That's
What more do you need to say?
right.
I like
right.
it.
He likes it. Yeah. Okay. That's good for Mr. Bill.
I think the coolest thing about it is that I can tell people that I promise them that they've never had anything like this. And, you know, a lot of people kind of turn their nose up like, come on, man. And then they try it. They're like, oh God, you're
Yeah.
like, I've never had anything like this. And I think that's really why we keep making it. It's just so interesting. It's just so different. It's just fun. Delicious whiskey. I'm excited for the barrel proof. I'm
Yeah.
always a barrel proof guy, man. Hey, we have, you know,
Oh,
should
yeah.
have just 2 bottles and sent them 2 samples of barrel strength. You know?
Yes, well, we'll get to that. I tell you what, but the 80 proof again, I think it's good for people to sit through and learn about this. So it's so key. I know that the first time the legend here, he actually saw your whiskey the day we interviewed for the bourbon show, and when that show then dropped, he saw the whiskey and he's like, "Why is that this 80 proof whiskey $125 or whatever it was over at Fairview Heights?" And literally, our show dropped the next day. He heard it and heard the process. He got in the back in the car and drove back over to Fairview Heights and bought himself a bottle. He's been a fan ever since. So he's a guy who definitely picks up a bottle here and there for you.
Well, yeah, because I brought that bottle to one of your classes of Total Wine. I said, get a load of this stuff. You got to try it. You've never had anything like this.
Right. All right, Mark, what are your thoughts, man? O'Driscoll.
This is by far one of the smoothest whiskeys I've had. This is really good. Deceptively smooth from start to finish. Everything everyone's annotated already, I accurately agree with. The banana Laffy Taffy, the cornbread. One thing I picked up was ginger. Just a little bit of spice, not too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, start to finish, this is deceivingly good. I drink a lot of scotch. I would compare it to like a good 18-year Anach. Very smooth, very easy to drink. One of those things you can have neat or you can have on ice. I am sold. I like it.
Great. All right, we'll get everybody else to weigh in. If you didn't weigh in on the first one, we'll talk to you when we get to this one. I like to get everybody involved, but let's go to the barrel strength one. So this is 117.8 proof is where we came in on this one. And all right, Jason, here we go, man. I love this stuff.
If it was up to me, I would sell nothing but barrel strength all the time. That unfortunately, I have to do other things. But if in a perfect world, I would sell, it would come straight from the barrel. And that's what these products, whenever you buy something barrel strength from Old 55, it's actually straight from the barrel. So it's all single barreled. All the sweet corns, even though not labeled so, are single barrel products. I think there were 60, I just looked at it, 59 bottles of this is what we sold in like 3 hours when this was out. That's all that came out of that one barrel. It's just fun, and we don't do anything. We pump it out. No chill filtering. We don't chill filter anything. Single barreled straight from the barrel, 58.9, which is a little higher proof than our usual wheated bourbons are. And just, this is a crass way to explain it, but I always say barrel strength is like any of my whiskeys at barrel strength are like those on crack cocaine. You know, it's just everything magnified, and I love it. This is, drinking this, and I always joke, I drink this about once or twice a year, and this is just because it's so reverent. We put so much. We break our backs to make this, but I never drink it and not smile the entire time. It's just so interesting. So here, guys, enjoy.
All right. Let's try it. Let's see what we got here. Wow. Dude, if I was in that room with you, we were presenting, I'd give you a hug right now. And I'm not a hugger, but that's what would happen.
I love it. It is. I would let you hug me, and I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yes, that'd be quite the moment for sure. All right,
I think you and the legend tried this from the barrel actually during the ABV.
We did, yes.
Yeah,
we were doing a barrel pick, and we were in there just by chance on the day that he was running that. And again, there you go.
I had the big sample bottles.
Yes. So we got to taste that, literally as it came off the still, and it was so good. And this is before you sold it as a barrel strength. So we were like, you need to sell this as a barrel strength. Now you probably already had this in the works, but we were like, you got to, we got to do this. And shortly thereafter, there it was. So it was cool.
Kevin Rose and I were talking about how much we like the 80. And we said, man, wouldn't it be incredible if we get a barrel strength? Because that would probably be awesome. And then you obliged us and gave us a sample, and we're right. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And I said, hold my beer just a second.
Yes. All right. Let's talk about this one on taste, because obviously there's a lot of big, bold taste here. And I do think that it's such a great version of what you said was it intensifies. I think everything that we tasted round one is here, and it's intensified. It's even more flavorful if that's possible. So, but I want to have some people weigh in that didn't get the chance on the first one. So John, we'll start with you. John doesn't have his camera on, so hopefully he's there. John? Dowdle?
Sorry, I didn't know if there was more than one John in the audience there.
No.
Yeah, because like I said, I'm using my wife's account.
Yeah, we know it. We got it.
Yeah, okay. No, like I said, I actually, I'll be honest with you, I actually much prefer this over the first one.
Mhm.
The first one to me, I mean, it's a little bit lighter. I mean, it's good, smooth, but a little bit. But there's a lot of there's about several layers to this, and I'm still kind of working through it.
Yeah. That but that kind of buttery popcorn too, that you movie theater, buttery pop, man, that's certainly there. But it's also got a sweetness to it that buttery popcorn doesn't have. So yeah, there's some cool stuff happening with this one. Paul Long. Paul, what are your thoughts here?
Oh man, I loved the first one. But this one is just really smooth and just complex. I'm still trying to figure it out, but both of them have been excellent. It's it's just has a little more heat to it, so it's good and complex. Just smooth. I'm loving it. So I'm still trying to figure it out.
The finish just goes on forever, and it never gets so intense that it's bothersome. There can be too hot. I mean, sometimes you get like a Stag Junior, and it's like, wow, that's just hot to be hot, that particular batch. But this one's got a nice hot intensity to it, but never being just hot to be hot. It warms up, sticks with you, and then gently fades. It's cool. Very cool.
Yeah, the finish on it is just really long. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Kudos to you guys. This is awesome.
Yes. Jesse, how about you? Jesse might not weigh in. Again, camera's not on. I don't know if Jesse's there at the moment.
Sorry, I was muted. It's,
Okay.
It's by far one of are you there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can hear you.
It's by far one of the smoothest high proof bourbons I've ever had.
Yeah.
I kind of taste like I'm trying to figure out the herb. It's got like a slight herbal flavor to me, but I can't. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I'm getting there.
There's a lot there.
High proof, I'll get some mint in there. I mean, that a little bit of heat, I'll get some mint. It's just, yeah.
Yes. I could drink this glass after glass till I fall off the chair. I think it's one of those. It's that smooth where you don't even know what's going on unless you try to stand up. Then suddenly you realize what you've done. But until that point, you're just having fun drinking. All right, Paul, you drink a lot of whiskey. You do a lot of these events. Paul Russo, we got a couple of Pauls on here. Paul Russo, you drink a lot of whiskey. You're dedicated to this. What are your thoughts here? This compared to some of the other stuff you drank in your life?
This is great. This is the first time I've had either one of these products, and this is phenomenal. I get like it's like the proof is drying on the palate, but it's so viscous also at the same time, which is kind of weird. It's got a great mouthfeel. I get like overwhelming, like the finish is like some kind of like a milk chocolate to me, and that just stands out. And I've rinsed my mouth with water, and it just every sip that's awesome.
Yeah. Brandon,
Yeah.
It's more buttery to me. It was more buttery
I've got some history with Jason. We worked together years ago, and I've been in South Carolina for the last 2.5 or so. I had a couple questions for him, but and it may apply to everybody else.
Go ahead.
So, I was only privy to the 80 proof in the past. How long have you been doing the barrel proof, and when did you make that transition to decide, all right, we need to pull the trigger and do this? And then secondly, more of a process issue or distillate process aging, on your barrels, what made the decision on the 30 gallon? What's your char level, and why all single barrel for you?
Barrel strength we did the first time 3 years ago because I had this tiny little leftover barrel, and I was so sick of bottling 80 proof single barrel that you bought from me, I'm pretty sure, that I was like, I'm done. Barrel strength it, and it was like 34 bottles, and we sold it on a Friday afternoon. It was gone. We sold them for $200, and people loved them, and it was delicious. And I kind of always wanted to do that. Like I said, I mean, I really feel that if I could sell everything at cast strength, like that's how I would. We use a 30-gallon barrel because we actually, as far as I know, are the only distiller, bourbon distiller in North America that ages everything underground. So we have very similar to almost like a dunnage house, like a Scotch dunnage house. So Brandon, you've been in that basement. It is very temperature controlled. We don't actively temperature control it, but we use that smaller barrel because I was afraid, almost 7 years ago now when we started that we would, I would just slow my aging down so that I would never have a product that was didn't taste young. That was my biggest concern. And then kind of now, like I said, almost 7 years later, we've realized that we kind of have hit this sweet spot of we're making better whiskey faster than anybody else. So it's a standard. I don't mess with anything. I always tell people this. I don't like, we don't reinvent the wheel in any way. We just kind of, and excuse my language, I don't want to offend anybody, but we kind of just fuck with everything. You know what I mean? Like we don't do anything the way anybody else does. We mess with everything. And one of those things is, I'm a big believer whenever I see a distiller that tells me about charred end tips or different level chars on barrel, my lip quivers a little bit, and I just wait to hear what their idea was, because I immediately assume that they're smarter than me, which is not a bad assumption. But I don't mess with anything. Like, I mean, we do standard level 3 char, which is just the industry average. And I single barrel everything because, to be brutally honest, Brandon, you know this, like I can, like that's why. It was another way. I think it's incredibly powerful for me to be able to tell my customers or possible customers, like when you take, like, okay, you guys have all been drinking, you've been drinking out of 2 barrels of Old 55 tonight. And those 2 barrels came from one family farm, from one family, from one distiller. You're looking at him, from one field. Like there's nothing more transparent. And that was the reason. I always wanted the single barrel. And then the idea just became like, once I figured out I just ran with it, because I think it's one more thing where we can buck the system of, and here's the best way to explain this. I always try to tell people that just because I do it doesn't mean that I disparage the way that other people do things. So if you give, this is my explanation for this. If you give the best master blender on the planet access to every whiskey that existed, every spirit period, and he could blend those, he would make something that all of us would see Jesus, you know what I mean? Like, we'd never strike someone in anger again. You know what I mean? Like, Steve would be kissing me instead of hugging me. You know what I mean? Fantastic. Okay, that is not what I do. I tell people all the time, I have never blended a product a day in my life. I don't have the skill to do it. That's not what I do. But where I'll stick my flag in the ground and where I think what my family has accomplished and what I have done is bring me your best single barrels, and I will take you toe to toe against anyone on the planet at any time. And here's the difference. Even the big guys have hundreds. I have every single barrel in my basement of sweet corn tastes this good. Every single barrel of wheated mash bill bourbon in my basement is stellar. And I always tell people the best way to explain it is 95% of my single barrels are always the same. And the last 5% is where the magic is. And it's usually proof and all these things, but you can make it your own. You kind of find these little differences, but consistency. And I think, well, so I guess, Brandon, the final answer to your question is why we did that is consistency, because I don't see in the bourbon industry, I don't see consistency. I see way too many brands and way too many lines from brands being bastardized because they win some award, they get super popular, and then they have to stretch the product and it changes. And that is just nothing against them. I understand that's business as we know it. That's not what the Fruits family and Old 55 do. You know, I mean, I want to give in 40 years, 50 years, 150 years, I want to be given the same product, doing it the same way. That's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. You've created a situation where you really don't have any competition, because all the things that you talked about leading up to this tasting, no one else is going to do that. I'm not going to start a distillery in the town over from you, Jason, and be like, well, yeah, I'm going to cut this down where I only get, 1/4 of the product I could yield because I want to compete with Jason. I would lose my ass and I'd be out of business quicker than, so you have no competition really. I mean, it's such a neat thing. Yeah.
I agree completely. I mean, we've had the big guys, have expressed interest in us, and I always laugh when they razz me about giving away all of our like, guys, and come take a tour sometime. Like, I basically give away the entire thing. You know, I tell everybody what we do, and I've had some pretty high execs at the biggest bourbon producers on the planet tell me, Jason, stop telling everybody what you're doing. And I say, why? You're
not going to do it. Yeah, they're not going to do it.
The whiskey that I do. Why am I worried about telling you all my secrets? You can't copy it anyway. And once again, this is my favorite part, is I get to brag on the family. Like, I only get to do this because I am the most, the luckiest asshole on the planet, because of some pretty darn cool people that I get to call grandparents and parents who have worked their ever loving butts off to, let me make this delicious whiskey, man. It is. Trust me, none of this is me. It is. I always like to say I'm a product of good breeding and better raising, man. Some pretty badass Americans had to work their ever-loving tails off for a better part of almost a century to make me sit here and drink whiskey with you guys on a Tuesday night. I'd rather be nowhere else. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Nigel, obviously Scotch guy, kind of converting over to bourbon here in the US. What are your thoughts here on this one as we talk about the barrel strength version? Well, we got you on mute again, so I gotta unmute.
Sorry.
You.
Yeah,
No
somebody else said it, but I got the chocolates too, the fruit-filled chocolate, and how long it lasts. It just goes on and on.
Yeah, it just goes on and on. Yeah,
and doesn't take a bad turn on the journey as it goes on.
I like that. That's good.
That's awesome.
Casey, how about you? You do a lot of those events with us, so I know you drink a lot of whiskey. What are your thoughts on the Old 55 barrel strength?
I have a better handle on this one than I did on the first one. So there's a type of banana called the blue Java banana. It's also called the ice cream banana, and you can get it in Hawaii. And it has a kind of an ice cream like texture and creamy mouthfeel, but and it has vanilla in it, but it's a banana, and that's exactly what I'm getting on this one. Plus, I'm getting nice oak char, that nice hug at the end, this little spice at the finish. This is incredibly enjoyable.
Crazy, right? All right, Todd Bourbon. I've drank some of the best whiskeys that have ever been produced with Todd Bourbon. We're in the same bourbon club. Literally, stuff from the 50s all the way up to the highest allocated stuff you can find today. We drank it all, and it's just amazing when you get a cool group where everybody contributes to it and brings something cool. But this is right up there with anything we've ever had, isn't it?
This is insane. Yeah, I'm. You say top 5. I mean, I might go top. I might go top.
I know it's crazy.
This thing is just a work of art, and clearly a labor of love that he does. And Jason, thanks for sharing this. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks for the comments and the reviews. I appreciate it, guys. That's incredible.
Mark, have you weigh in on this one too? The barrel strength.
So the 80 proof's easy. You can drink that all day. I have a feeling you start drinking this all day. It's going to be a rough night. But very good. I'm a big fan of barrel proof. I like to drink it pure, as nature and God intended, without mixing it with water. Every now and then I like to mix it with ice just to see how the texture, the mouthfeel, the taste, and the flavors change. But I'm a big fan of this proof, barrel proof. I like it. I'm sold.
All right. All right. Bill gave it his highest rating before. He liked it. What are your thoughts as you try the barrel strength now, Mr. Bill?
Angels singing. It's very awesome.
Yeah. Bill definitely, when he locks something into, when it's in his site, he'll be stalking you now. We're gonna ask Jason when the next time is gonna be available in a second. He may or may not share that with us, but we're gonna ask the question.
I will.
We'll see if we get it out of him. We just keep drinking for right now. Just keep drinking, Jason, and then we're gonna ask you that question. Mike, what are your thoughts on the barrel strength?
So first impression on it, it reminded me of going to the Iowa State Fair. It's like, what can we fry and what can we put frosting on? And this is like, if you could dip fresh sweet corn in butter and then frosting, that was just the first thing off the nose. It just feels like I'm going to drink this and get diabetes, but it's so good.
Yes.
It's very good.
Yeah. Mr. Murphy.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed it at both proofs. The one of the things I noticed about the barrel strength, at over 112 proof, you'd expect to get a real pretty strong hug, and normally with a Kentucky hug, I get in the chest area, you'll feel it. This I guess this would be an Indiana hug.
Hug.
It stayed in the mouth. And when you swallow it, the hug doesn't quite hit you so hard in the chest. It's just so drinkable and just fantastic. Really, really enjoyed these.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least, Mr. Legend here. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think this is like candy in a glass.
Yeah.
It's absolutely delicious. It doesn't have, I'll agree with Brian, not the traditional Kentucky hug, but it gives you like a warm glow. But it's this stuff is phenomenal.
Yeah. The Legend and I are gonna have to, as this gets released through the coming years, we're gonna take turns, I think, making the run. Who's in charge of driving this time? And the next time, if you drive this time, and then next time I'm driving, Rick, and we'll get yourself stocked in this. All right. Jason, we got to ask the question, man. We love this stuff. We want it. We want to be part of it. When's the next time it's going to be bottled up and available in the gift shop?
Well, absolutely. So the plan moving forward is about 75% of the year's production is going to go into 100 proof bottled and bond. So we can just get it out. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes sense.
But this coming year will be, we're going to do 5 barrels of cast strength.
Okay.
So it'll be 5 times what we've ever done before. The cast strength will always be a holiday release. So sometime in like December-ish, it'll come out. And I'll tell you this, this, Steve, Brandon knows this. Most of you guys that have come and seen me know this. I don't come from means. My family comes from nothing. And when I charge you $250 for a bottle, it kind of hurts my soul a little bit, but if I'm going to do that, I want to give you the presentation. And so you guys kind of talked me into that barrel pick, into doing a barrel pick for sure. So we just labeled these up. This is just it was a sweet corn bottle with an actual label that actually doesn't happen. Usually our like this new bottle and bond, it's all enameled on the bottle. It's super nice.
Yeah, looks good.
We actually are partnering with Glen Carn, the Crystal Studio out of Scotland, and they are producing a decanter for this to go into for the holiday release.
Wow.
The glass is going to cost me like $30. And we're going to doozy this up. It's going to come in a sleeve so we can change the sleeve. so I can afford the glass, let's be totally honest. And we're gonna so the glass will stay the same, but seasonally, I'm thinking about even maybe changing the sleeves yearly for each barrel, so you can try to kind of get a couple different ones and see what's going on. But because I'm gonna single barrel this as well, and then keep the numbers on each barrel individually. But the plan is to really do, I mean, I feel like if you spend that kind of money, I want to give you something heirloomish that you can put on your shelf. Because this is not a whiskey. I mean, it's not even a whiskey I drink monthly. I mean, I drink it once or twice a year because I break my back to make it. And my family and I truly appreciate those customers that would spend this kind of money. And I want to give you something that, you can hold on to forever and be proud of to have, and just a neat bottle. So look for that. Like I said, holiday season, I'm excited. I just started, I just mailed some bottles off today. I just got done with the bottle and bonds, and now I'm in the middle of the creative process. And I think I think you guys are really going to like this finished product on the barrel strength. And like I said, the price isn't really going up. It's going to stay at $250. We're just going to, I'm just going to give you a little more juice for the squeeze. No pun intended. So yeah, it'd be cool.
Yeah. Well, again, you don't have to apologize for it. You talked about all the reasons why it is what it is. And I am but a humble podcaster, but I'll be in line to get a bottle of this when the time is right, when it is out, my friend. It's good stuff. So,
well, Thank you, sir. You know how much I appreciate you. And it's awesome always being on here.
Yeah. Any questions for Jason before we end the official call here tonight? If anybody has any questions about this whiskey, anything else, feel free to open up your mics and ask away.
Hey, Jason, Gavin here in South Carolina. I really enjoy the barrel proof. So much so that I have to wonder what prompted you to even proof it down to 80 proof? Is that just an arbitrary number that you wanted to arrive at, or is that how you felt it was best, whether it be for mixing cocktails or what have you? It's just that I think a lot of whiskey drinkers enjoy higher proof bourbon, so much so that I hate to see it proof down to 80 proof. So how did you arrive upon that?
I agree with you. The way we came upon that was 80 proof is the lowest you can proof whiskey. And I had like 5 barrels the first year, and they made it about a month before people figured out what it was. And it wouldn't even have lasted that long if we wouldn't have watered it down to 80 proof. So I'm with you 100%. I always want, the higher the proof, the better, as far as I'm concerned. And it's just been, as we've expanded and to that point, like, I think we found that sweet spot with the bottled and bond. We can pull that age statement and then also have that bonded on there. So we're kind of proving what, there's obviously all that historical legacy and being able to put that on your bottle, which I think is huge. So 100 proof will be the lowest from here on forth. And then obviously a third, a little less than a third of the barrels of sweet corn are going to barrel strength. So I guess what I'm saying is I agree with you. That's where we're leaning towards as well.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, really good stuff. What else do you guys want to know from Jason? Anything else? Well, I thank you guys for coming out here. And again, I didn't know we were going to put this out here. I didn't know if you would truly believe, hey, this is something so special, you got to attend this. And I thank everyone who signed up. Again, we had a sellout for this. Very cool. And I'm glad we got to expose so many people to this very special whiskey. Again, one of my all-time favorites. And I can't wait till the holiday season so I can get out to see Jason at Old 55 and pick up a bottle of this. It'll be a yearly tradition. We put up the tree, play a little Christmas music, and pick up at some point a bottle of Old 55. That's part of the Akley family tradition now. So looking forward to it, my friend. So with that, I'll let you guys go. Again, turning off the recorder now for those that are just going to be watching this and drinking along with the recording. But I'll stick around if you have any questions, anything like that. Really appreciate it. Thanks, though.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good night. Thanks.